The corpse is also edible, don't waste it. The story begins with a very gruesome scene. Blood stains the ground, and a man lies motionless, surrounded by individuals with green and yellow hair. One of them laughs sinisterly. Eat him. Finally, we have something to eat. The man's eyes roll back, blood vessels bulging red, reflecting his pain. In his gaze, a silhouette of a woman appears, a woman who used the strength of men. She is Wu Ting, and she whines. I was the one who got the door open. Remember to share some of the reserved food with me. The man who died in pain and regret is Zhang Yi, our male protagonist. Zhang Yi's hand was cut off and given to Wu Ting. Zhang Yi resents the situation, thinking that he was too naive. He silently wishes, if there is an afterlife, what you did to me today, I will return it 100-fold. Scene change. Zhang Yi suddenly wakes up, sweat dripping from his forehead as he gasps for breath. Ah, does God really care for me? He realizes he has returned to Tianhai City a month before the global freeze. Zhang Yi is astonished. What is going on? Didn't I get killed by the neighbors no longer have humanity? He checks his phone and sees that the date is November 12th. There is still a month left until the global freeze. Zhang Yi was delighted, standing by the railing enjoying the warm rays of sunshine after numerous days of freezing temperatures. Am I alive again? In February 2050, a blue star was affected by a supernova explosion 10 million light years away. Earth had to endure immense destruction. In the city of Tianhai, usually warm, now faced a snowstorm that dropped temperatures to minus 60 to 70 degrees. The blizzard lasted for a month, submerging the entire city. Everything will be deathly and brutal. Zhang Yi angrily recalled what he had been through. Supplies are not easy to accumulate thanks to the supermarket warehouse management relationships, yet they were stolen by inhuman people. They even chopped up bodies for food. I have to plan to avoid ending up like in my previous life. He silently calculated. First of all, I must ensure safety and stockpile enough goods to survive when the apocalypse comes. Then I will take revenge on them. I will need food, weapons, and of course, a perfect plan to counterattack them. Suddenly, a blue light flashed before his eyes. Zhang Yi rubbed his eyes, thinking to himself, strange, what just flew by me? He was unexpectedly pulled into a virtual space, floating in midair in amazement. Is this a virtual space? If I can use it to store resources, I won't have to worry about supplies anymore. He smiled cunningly and secretly planned, if I can clear out the stock from the Walmart supermarket I manage, I won't lack for supplies for the next 10 generations. With the plan set, Zhang Yi's growling stomach reminded him, a month before the apocalypse, I have to eat all the delicious food or I won't have another chance. The bright sunshine shone down on the towering buildings. Zhang Yi entered a restaurant and ordered a lavish feast. He devoured his meal as if the apocalypse was just around the corner. The waiter thought to himself in surprise, where did this wealthy person come from, eating so quickly? Is he in a rush to be reincarnated? Tears of happiness streamed down Zhang Yi's face. Ha ha ha, during the apocalypse, everyone will be fighting over instant noodles to survive. Wanting to eat won't be as easy as it is now. After finishing his meal and stepping outside, the waiter called out, Sir, your bill has exceeded $5,000. Here is our restaurant's VIP card. Please visit us again. He just smiled. No need, I won't use it. At that moment, a girl with green hair, named Wu Ting's best friend, called out to Wu Ting. Wu Ting, you're so lucky. Who would have thought the guy pursuing you is a wealthy one? Wu Ting was surprised and thought, could it be that he has been pretending all along? But now that they had run into each other by chance, pretending to meet and probing wouldn't be a problem. She put on a shy appearance, looking embarrassed. The author probably noticed this and let a few flowers fall to create a backdrop. Zhang Yi, what a coincidence. Where are you going? Seeing Wu Ting, Zhang Yi's face immediately darkened. It was still that fake expression, which had ended up deceiving him and nearly getting him into trouble, wanting to cook him alive. He disdainfully replied, I'm going to the supermarket to buy some things. He silently thought, I can't let her off so easily. I need someone to carry my stuff, and a free servant has come to my door. Why not take advantage of it? Wu Ting continued to pretend to be sweet and presentable. What a coincidence, we were about to go shopping too. It's on the way. Shading added, Right. We'll help you carry your things. We're neighbors after all and should help each other out. In the supermarket, seeing Zhang Yi buy so many items, Wu Ting asked Zhang Yi, with so much stuff, how many people are you planning to feed? Are you having an event that you didn't tell us about? Shading noticed that Zhang Yi was mainly buying snacks and questioned, Oh really, are you planning to go camping? Rich people don't usually eat this kind of stuff. Zhang Yi replied, the world is always unpredictable. What if the apocalypse comes one day? I need to stock up to survive. Wu Ting, hearing this, pouted in annoyance. Ha, if you don't want to be honest with me, that's fine. You received so much help from me today, said you might have to treat me to a meal later. Zhang Yi furrowed his brow and came up with an excuse. I've been busy lately and don't have free time. Let's do it next month. Shening, carrying the bags and sweating profusely, grumbled, Why do you let us carry all the stuff, you rich man? You have so much money, but you're still stingy. Hearing that, Wu Ting felt uncomfortable and nudged Ning. Ning is tired, so don't take her words to heart. We're all good friends, and talking about money will ruin our friendship. Ning laughed awkwardly and scratched her head. Right. My mouth is faster than my brain. Zhang Yi, please don't take it personally. Seeing this, Wu Ting quickly spoke up for Ning. Zhang Yi is such a nice person. He definitely won't mind. We finished shopping, right? Let's go home. Zhang Yi turned around, his eyes brightening, and laughed disdainfully. Ha. Of course I didn't pay any attention. At Zhang Yi's place, Wu Ting and Ning were almost exhausted from carrying a pile of food. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi leisurely walked ahead, comfortably swiping his card, thinking to himself, even if the information about the stockpiling is revealed, it's all right. I want to stay here to take revenge on those niggers from my previous life who had me chopped alive. Mrs. Lin, the curly-haired neighbor, was holding her grandchild, and seeing Zhang Yi buying so much food, thought to herself, with all that food, this kid Zhang Yi must have seen a sale at the supermarket and bought everything to hoard it all for himself. Mrs. Lin then asked, Is the warehouse clearing out items? Why are you all bringing back so much stuff? Ning frowned and replied, All of this was bought by Zhang Yi. We are just helping him carry it back. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Lin's greedy instincts kicked in as she said, Zhang Yi, with so much food, how can you eat it all? Share some with me. Zhang Yi's expression darkened upon hearing this. Just then, Mrs. Lin's grandchild reached for a chocolate bar in Zhang Yi's basket. Zhang Yi frowned, quickly snatched the candy back, and replied, Sorry, I bought this stuff for myself. Mrs. Lin was taken aback and could only say one word. You? Seeing his food snatched away, the child became furious and shouted, flailing his arms and legs, You're a bad guy, give me back the chocolate, or I'll beat you up. Zhang Yi glared and pointed straight at the child's face. Say one more word, and I'll tear your mouth open. He really was a nemesis to children. Upon seeing this, the child immediately turned back and hugged his grandmother, crying. Seeing her grandson had lost his candy, Mrs. Lin was furious. You're grown up. Why are you bothering a child? It's just a box of chocolates, isn't it? Can't you just give it to him? Or do you want me to pay you later? We really wanted it, so we took it from you. Zhang Yi had his bank account QR code ready for her to scan. I already told you, I bought this to eat for myself. Either pay me now or go to the supermarket and buy it yourself. Mrs. Lin, angry and with a trembling voice, said, You are too much. You're such a rude kid, you don't know how to respect the elderly. I am a member of the local labor union. Just wait and see. You won't live peacefully here. Zhang Yi ignored her and continued to step into the elevator with Wu Ting and Ning. Once they got home, Wu Ting reminded him, Zhang Yi, don't forget to treat us to a meal. Zhang Yi replied to wrap things up, Okay, I will definitely treat you next time. After finishing his sentence, he slammed the door shut, holding a list of the things he needed to prepare in his hand, then opened the virtual space. Let's just put the supplies here and see how effective they are. He silently thought. Prioritize food and confirm inventory. Medicine can be sourced by someone else. For heating, I'll need a good heater and insulation in the house. Then I will build an invulnerable steel blockhouse. As for weapons, I will need a bow and arrows and some melee weapons for defense. Zhang Yi imagined the scene of rampaging with a bow and arrows, then reflected. Guns will be hard to find, but I might still have to try. In the apocalypse, what is there that can't be used? Zhang Yi slumped down on the sofa and sighed. Well, there's still a month left. During this time, I can sell off all my assets. With money, there will be a way. The next morning, at Zhang Yi's house, he was transferring all the food he had bought yesterday into the virtual space. He pondered. Putting in vegetables and meat doesn't change anything, but fresh fish can't be preserved. However, they don't seem to spoil. It seems the virtual space can't hold live items, but the speed of time might differ from the outside. If it can preserve fresh vegetables and meat, then what about cooking them into meals? While thinking, Zhang Yi dialed the restaurant's number. The other end picked up. Hello, this is the Great Blessings to the People restaurant. How may we assist you? Zhang Yi pretended to be calm. Let me speak with your manager. I am about to host guests, and the banquet will last for 3 days and 3 nights. After speaking, Zhang Yi stood up abruptly. A little while later, the voice on the other end said, Hello, Mr. Zhang. I am the restaurant manager. 500 banquet tables, priced no less than $100,000. If you need it urgently, we will prepare right away. But you must deposit $20,000. Zhang Yi replied calmly, No problem. Please send me your account number shortly and I will transfer the money. After finishing his conversation, he hung up while murmuring, holding the house certificate. No matter what, the money will be useless in a month, but right now it's still needed to buy things. At the bank, after mortgaging the house his parents left behind and his accumulated savings, Zhang Yi's bank account had a significant amount. However, it seemed still not enough. He continued to ponder. Besides the expenses for the banquet, the remaining amount should be enough to renovate the house, but I still need to buy a lot of medicine and weapons. The remaining money is not too much. While calculating his expenses, an elderly man unexpectedly approached, smiling and asking, "Hey bro, are you in urgent need of money?" Zhang Yi turned around. "Who are you?" The man noticed that Zhang Yi seemed to be sure on cash, so he offered, "You need money urgently, and the bank has a lot of approval rules, right? Why not try our company?" Hearing this, Zhang Yi immediately changed his tone and cunningly replied, "I need a few $1,000,000. Can you do that?" He secretly laughed to himself. That was fast. Someone is already bringing money. Zhang Yi asked again, "Can you really lend me money? I need $5 million to get through this financial difficulty, and I can pay it all back in a maximum of 3 months. The old man nodded. "Don't worry, our lending budget is very large. Let's go inside the company and discuss further." Once inside, the man took Zhang Yi to meet Director Chen. "Director, this is Zhang Yi, who wants to borrow money." Director Chen looked at Zhang Yi and said, "You're not asking for a small amount. How long do you need to pay it back?" "Just so you know, my interest rates are very high." The other man interjected, "Director, please handle this specially. Mr. Zhang needs money urgently to make things work. Once he overcomes this difficulty, he can pay back right away, correct?" Zhang Yi immediately responded, "That's right. I will pay back as soon as possible. The high interest rate won't be a problem." Director Chen nodded in satisfaction. "All right, our interest rate is 40%. Borrow 5 million, repay 7 million. Once the contract is signed, the money will be transferred immediately to your account." Zhang Yi was delighted, clasping his hands in thanks. "Thank you, Director Chen. I really appreciate it." However, Director Chen continued, "But you need to pledge something valuable. $5 million is not a joke." Hearing this, Zhang Yi took out the documents and confidently said, "This house is worth more than $5 million. It should be enough to pledge. I also have a Mercedes-Benz worth $300,000. If I can't repay, you can take it all." Director Chen was not a fool and replied, "Mr. Zhang, this room of yours is at most worth $4 to $5 million. To borrow $5 million from this place, I would be at a loss." Zhang Yi showed a distressed expression. "Boss Chen, you must help me. I urgently need money right now. If the money can be transferred today, I only need $4 million. Director Chen remained unmoved, insisting, No, this business deal really can't be done." Zhang Yi, frustrated, slammed his hand on the table. $4 million, just transfer it today and I only need $4 million. When it's time to repay, I will pay you back $7 million. Hearing this, Director Chen agreed. "All right, I'll give you a special loan application." Zhang Yi thought to himself, the banking paperwork earlier was of course real, but there's only 1 month left until the global freeze. These two fools won't be able to recover this debt even if they die. The blonde man smirked cunningly, whispering to Director Chen, "Borrowing $4 million while mortgaging a $5 million room. It seems this kid really has an urgent matter." Director Chen also laughed cunningly. "Otherwise, why would he borrow $4 million only to pay back $7 million? This amount will at least earn us $3 million. We don't have to worry about this month's sales anymore." The two cunning men exchanged glances and Director Chen added, "We need to find a way to squeeze this chicken dry." Hearing this, the other person understood right away. "Okay, I will contact the foreign organization to see if we can sell anything off this person." Zhang Yi just got into the car and glanced at the two, secretly sneering in disdain. Indeed, two kind-hearted people giving me money to spend. He opened his phone to check his account and saw that $4 million had been transferred. Now, Zhang Yi's account balance reached $9 million. He thought to himself, "Now I have money to create a safe room." After that, Zhang Yi went to Security Dragon of War, one of the largest security companies in the country. The company provides security services to countless famous figures in politics and business. Zhang Yi remembered, "In my previous life, there was news that they built a top-notch safe room worth $1 billion for the son of a real estate tycoon. Even during the apocalypse, this wealthy young man lived comfortably thanks to that room." Lost in thought, the director of the security company suddenly appeared and spoke. "Hello, I am Wu Huai-ren, the director of the operations department. May I ask if you need any assistance from us?" Zhang Yi stood up, shook hands, and said, "I need you to build me the safest room possible, one that can withstand the apocalypse." Upon hearing this, Director Huai Ren's eyes lit up. Dragon of War is a leading security company in the world, and we can certainly meet any request from our clients. A list of prices for the services is available, and you can choose freely. Zhang Yi picked up the contract and carefully examined each item. Reinforce the room with aviation-grade materials using a 200mm thick alloy. Replace the walls, ceiling, and floor. The balcony will be converted into ultra-strong bulletproof glass, which will not change even in extreme temperatures. The ventilation system will feature air filtration, preventing the entry of any toxic gases. The surveillance system will be equipped with 360-degree cameras with no blind spots around the room, capable of activating alerts immediately. The room door will be reinforced similarly to the bank vault doors, making it difficult to breach even with small bombs. After reading it all, Zhang Yi thought, my goal is to transform this room into an iron tortoise where no one can intrude. Director Huai Ren observed Zhang Yi's expression and thought to himself, although he didn't know the reason behind Zhang Yi's situation, there were plenty of people in the world with money who cared for their own lives and those of their loved ones. The success of his company today also stemmed from their aspirations. After finishing reading, Zhang Yi handed the project back to Huai Ren. Perhaps understanding the customer's concerns, Huai Ren added, even though this room is not 120 square meters and is on the 24th floor, after renovation with these features, if equipped with weapons, the room will become a real bunker. Zhang Yi exclaimed in surprise, you even studied bunkers? Wu Guai Ren explained, I used to be a mercenary abroad, so I have a very good understanding of military knowledge. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi suddenly came up with an idea. So you have a way to get a gun? Wu Guai Ren replied to Zhang Yi, Mr. Zhang, in principle, that kind of item is not allowed for personal storage. Have you encountered any formidable enemies? Zhang Yi scratched his head and explained, yes, I've run into some trouble with certain people in higher positions. They are very ruthless and they have guns. Zhang Yi's expression darkened. He asked Wu Ren, I am spending over $8 million on this safety room project. If anything goes wrong, it won't be easy for you to explain. I'm just asking for help to get a self-defense item. That's not too difficult, right? Wu Ren closed his eyes, smiled, and thought to himself, of course, there is a way I can't casually provide it to someone without a clear background. He stood up, looked at Zhang Yi, and responded, within half a month, we can finish renovating the safety room for you. During this time, if there is any news about getting a gun, I will inform you. Hearing this, Zhang Yi felt somewhat relieved and replied, all right then, I will wait for your news. Zhang Yi was considering what to do next and decided to check out the hunting club. This was an important place for acquiring cold weapons. Zhang Yi arrived there early in the morning. Since he bought too much, the staff there curiously asked, Mr. Zhang, why are you buying so many weapons at once? There are indeed many lions and hyenas in Africa, but if you want to go hunting, you need to pay attention to safety. Zhang Yi walked to his car and replied, don't worry, this time I'm bringing a few friends along. I guarantee that using your equipment will allow me to fully demonstrate my skills. He got into the car. In the back seat was a crossbow along with more than 10 arrows. He thought to himself, fortunately, I had obtained a hunting certificate before, so now I can go hunting with things like bows and arrows without fear of being questioned. When Zhang Yi returned to the apartment, he saw Uncle Yu shouting, don't let them in. It turned out to be the container trucks delivering food for Zhang Yi. Uncle Yu continued, bringing in so many items definitely requires the owner's approval. I can't allow them in on my own. Seeing this, Zhang Yi walked closer and said, Uncle Yu, this is all food being delivered for me. Let them in. Uncle Yu was taken aback and asked in surprise, what kind of food requires more than a dozen container trucks? The people nearby heard Zhang Yi say that and started to talk excitedly. Oh my gosh, it must be at least several hundred tables. Where is he planning to put them? This is the great blessings to the people, a very large 5-star hotel. A few hundred tables must cost at least $100,000. Oh my, for just one banquet, that's so much money. Zhang Yi really is a rich guy. Fang Wu-Ting was also standing in the crowd and heard Zhang Yi's words. This time she was certain. It seems Zhang Yi really isn't short of money. If he's truly from a wealthy family, then how can I make him listen to me? Zhang Yi raised his hand to give directions to the driver. Move everything into the warehouse first. I already spoken with the manager over there. Fang Wu-Ting awkwardly placed her hand on her head. Zhang Yi sensed her insincerity, his expression changed slightly. Then he reassured himself. Just keep the misunderstanding going. When she realizes the truth, I will personally take her to hell. Zhang Yi went upstairs, and as soon as he entered, the transporter smiled and said, Mr. Zhang, 500 banquet tables have been delivered. Enjoy your meal. Zhang Yi replied, You've all worked hard today. Let me check a bit. He stepped inside, overwhelmed by the crates of goods, silently thinking, these delicious items, along with the concentrated hot pot broth and fresh ingredients in the warehouse. He raised his hand and shot a beam of blue light to transport everything into the warehouse. He imagined himself lying atop the enticing dishes, saliva dripping in delight, thinking silently. These luxurious dishes can be enjoyed with hot pot at any time. I had lived my second half of life without worry. The next day, the repairman for Zhang Yi arrived and brought the items in. He stood outside the room, holding his phone while keeping an eye on the pile of goods. Suddenly, several neighbors spotted him standing in a corner nearby and whispered, "Has Zhang Yi been taking the wrong medication recently, doing so many strange things all day?" That's true. A few days ago at the supermarket, he was seen buying 3 carts full of food. I wonder if he thinks the apocalypse is coming, stockpiling. So much food for what? He must have some mental issues. At that moment, Zhang Yi received a message from the director of the security company Dragon of War. In 3 days, someone will provide what you need, but the price will be a bit high. Zhang Yi replied, "No problem, as long as the quality is good." After that, Zhang Yi approached the workers, raised his fist, and said, "The repair work is up to you guys. During this time, I will be at the hotel." The worker responded, "Don't worry, just leave it to us." Zhang Yi turned away, stuffing his hands into his pockets, and thought to himself, "A month later, you will understand who the real joke is." After that, Zhang Yi went to the storage room of Huanan's supermarket, approached Director Zhao's desk, smiled, and suggested, "Director Zhao, I need a large amount of essential medicine, good quality. Your brother-in-law is the vice president of Xining Group. We are all colleagues, so let's help each other." Director Zhao adjusted his collar, his face not very comfortable, and then replied, "Ha ha ha, Zhang Yi, we can't do this for personal gain unless..." Zhang Yi immediately smiled, raised a finger, and said, "I'll pay double the market price. I guarantee you won't lose out." Hearing this, Director Zhao regained his cheerful demeanor and raised a finger like Zhang Yi. "This is your own proposal. Out of respect for your serious work, I will approve the 20-day leave request submitted to HR. The goods will arrive tomorrow." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi smiled contentedly, clasped his hands together, and happily replied, "Thank you so much. I'll transfer the money right now." Zhang Yi entered the storage space, looked at the bustling pile of goods, and thought, food, daily necessities, tools, everything is available. All the essential supplies for life are fully stocked here. Feeding 1,000 people will not be a problem. Zhang Yi put on a black hat, pulled it down, and seriously examined. Just in case something happens, everything needs to be prepared carefully. If the apocalypse comes a week in advance, all of this must be transported out. There can be no mistakes. When Zhang Yi walked by, he accidentally ran into Fang Wuting and Zhao Ping. Zhao Ping was holding 2 tickets in his hand and said to Fang Wuting, "Wuting, are you free this weekend? I have tickets to a concert. Let's go together." Wuting smiled, brushing her hair back as she replied, "Thank you, Zhao Ping, but I already have plans tonight. I'm sorry." Zhao Ping saw Zhang Yi passing by with a disdainful smile, turned to point at him, and scolded, "Zhang Yi, you are really not handling things well. As a man, how can you let a woman do the lifting for you?" This action surprised Fang Wuting a bit, but she just smiled it off. Zhao Ping was more agitated, pointing at her and saying to Zhang Yi, "Today, Wuting kept complaining about back pain at work. Next time there's something like this, I hope you won't bother her anymore." Fang Wuting tried to soothe the situation. "It's okay. Actually, my health isn't that bad." Zhang Yi looked at Zhao Ping, then shifted his gaze to Fang Wuting, thinking, "So this woman is bragging about this to others." At that moment, she was holding a cup of hot water, resting her hand on her hip and looking at Zhao Ping in a coy manner. "It's just that I couldn't do manual work, so my back is a bit sore." Zhao Ping seems to misunderstand what she meant. His face turned red with embarrassment. He pointed at Zhang Yi once again and ordered, "Quickly give Wuting $50 to go see a doctor." Zhang Yi wouldn't let him off easily. "Say what you want to say." With a serious expression, he said, "It was her Woju Dong offered to help me with the lifting. I didn't ask for her help." Using a threatening and sarcastic expression, Zhang Yi asked Zhao Ping, "Moreover, who do you think you are to dare point fingers at me? Do you really consider yourself as someone important?" After saying this, Zhang Yi turned away. Zhao Ping seemed to have realized fear, stepping back and nervously responding, I was just negotiating with you. Why raise your voice like that?" Then he turned to Wu Ting and instructed her, "Wu Ting, I've already said that Zhang Yi is not a good person. You should stay away from him in the future." Fan Wu Ting tightly grasped the cup of water in her hand. She watched Zhang Yi's retreating figure and wondered, why has Zhang Yi changed into a different person these days? He doesn't take the initiative to talk to me, nor does he text me good night anymore. Surely something must be wrong. The next day at the Great Blessings to the People Hotel, Zhang Yi had just come out of the bathroom in the morning when he saw a message from Fang Wu Ting. "I feel like you've been a bit strange lately. You started stockpiling supplies and renovating your house. Is something going on? Zhang Yi, with his hair still wet, held his phone and thought a message from Fang Wu-ting. It seems she has started to suspect. Fang Wu-ting continued messaging. It seems like our communication has lessened lately, making me feel lonely. Zhang Yi sat on the bed and opened the unread messages. Fang Wu-ting on the other side was complaining loudly. Zhang Yi deserves to die. Has he gone crazy lately? I actively look for him, and he dares not to reply to my messages. Shenning stepped out of the bathroom. Hearing Wu-ting say that, she added, Zhang Yi has indeed been a bit strange lately. Then, feeling annoyed, she stretched out her arms. At that moment, she continued, only a ghost would know why he bought so much food and drinks. Moreover, he also booked so many banquet tables at the hotel. It's as if supplies are really about to run out severely. Shenning sat down beside Fang Wu-ting and wiped her cheeks. At this time, Fang Wu-ting curiously turned to ask, Shenning, what do you think is really going on during this time? Maybe Zhang Yi received some news that made him start stockpiling. Shenning burst out laughing and replied, Wu-ting, have you gone stupid? If something really happened, there would definitely be an announcement. Then she went to massage Fang Wu-ting's shoulders and reassured her, we just need to live peacefully. If he's really stockpiling, then he'd just become a joke to others. Fang Wu-ting found her reasoning valid. She closed her eyes to enjoy and replied, what you said makes sense. A week later, Zhang Yi had received weapons in his hands. He held the gun, examined it, and said, finally, it has arrived. Although it was a bit expensive, it's really useful. With this thing, I feel much more at ease when the apocalypse comes. At that moment, there was a doorbell. A delivery person pushed in a box and said to Zhang Yi, hello, Mr. Zhang, you have an order. Please sign here. Zhang Yi took the invoice and signed it. He was pleased and thought to himself, the essential pharmaceuticals for survival in the apocalypse have arrived. All that's left is, after signing, he handed the paper to the delivery person and casually asked, actually, I still have a few items I need to order on the delivery app. The food is quite a lot. If you don't mind, could you deliver this notice there first? The delivery person happily accepted it and replied, no problem. Where do you want it sent? Just then, he received a message that the house repairs were finished. Zhang Yi turned to the delivery person and said, I'm going home now, I'll take you there. When Zhang Yi arrived home, he looked around and thought with satisfaction. Indeed, it's the top security company in the country. The quality and speed of transforming the safe room are undeniable. A guy wearing glasses spoke about the newly renovated room with Zhang Yi. We have done as you requested. We installed thick 200mm aloe sheets throughout the room. The ventilation system uses military-grade technology to filter out all harmful air, preventing any attacks with toxic gas from the outside. Additionally, the heating system throughout the room has been completely redone, using professional materials from the Arctic Research Department. Besides renovating the wall-mounted heater as per your request, we can also ensure to prevent heat loss by up to 99%. The two stepped out onto the balcony. He continued, the window materials are all bulletproof. Furthermore, they are also explosion-proof, even more robust than the alloy inside the room. Moreover, they allow light in for you and facilitate outside observation. Finally, he raised his glasses, smiled with satisfaction, and concluded his statement. Furthermore, to ensure your safety, we have installed a surveillance system throughout the building, totaling 300 cameras. You can monitor every floor of the entire building. Zhang Yi was pleased and shook hands with the staff member, smiling as he said, I am very satisfied with this renovated safe room. The man with glasses smiled back and replied, thank you for your feedback. I believe your experience here will not disappoint you. Then he handed Zhang Yi the payment slip and said, if there are no further issues, please settle the remaining payment with us in these 3 months. Zhang Yi took it and responded confidently, certainly. Absolutely, the man with glasses turned away. Zhang Yi reminded him, be careful. The boy's expression darkened, his lips curled as he thought. The remaining amount is unpayable. When the end of the world comes, it is uncertain who will still be alive. He leaned against the balcony and looked down, cheerfully saying, the supplies have finally arrived. Below was a truck filled with boxes of water. Zhang Yi thought to himself, the most essential item for survival during the global freeze is mineral water. Zhang Yi stepped down below. The people below, seeing his actions, asked in confusion, is Zhang Yi crazy? A few days ago, he was renovating a room. I saw many people carrying thick metal panels, at least several dozen millimeters, trying to make a safe room like in the movies. Now he buys so much mineral water. Surely he doesn't think the city of Tianhai is about to run out of water, does he? The city of Tianhai is by the sea. Even if the whole country is short on water, it won't come to us. Ha ha, Uncle Yu, also puzzled, turned to Zhang Yi and asked, Zhang Yi, why did you buy so much mineral water? If you need help with anything, just tell me and I'll lend a hand. Zhang Yi smiled and remembered. In his previous life, when the ice wind came, Uncle Yu had given up his last bit of food to a mother and child who were about to starve, costing in his own life. He was one of the few who would show enthusiasm and kindness towards him. Then he whispered in Uncle Yu's ear, Uncle Yu, the temperature this year has changed a bit. I've received news that this winter will be quite difficult, just in case. What? Uncle Yu was surprised. It's best if you also prepare some food and water to avoid the prices of those things skyrocketing later. Uncle Yu, half believing and half doubting, put his hand on his chin and asked, Zhang Yi, is it true? Is the news reliable? Zhang Yi placed his hand on his chest and continued, You see, I prepared a lot of things you can store instant noodles and mineral water. There's no harm in buying more of these. Uncle Yu found this reasonable and replied, All right, usually I'm alone, so it's no problem to stock up a bit. Suddenly, Mr. Sheng came over, pulled Uncle Yu, and advised, Brother Yu, don't believe him. Lately, he seems to be sick, buying things everywhere, just rolling around like that. Who knows, he might want to drag others down with him. Uncle Yu refused to leave and replied, You can't talk like that. I believe him. Then Uncle Yu was also pulled away, but he turned back to say to Zhang Yi, Mr. Sheng is just talking nonsense, Zhang Yi. Don't take it to heart. Zhang Yi stood with his arms crossed, thinking, Warnings have already been given. Whether you believe it or not is your own business. After that, he decided to spend the remaining time using up all the money he had to buy supplies, then training both his physical fitness and shooting skills, preparing for the upcoming global freeze. With 20 days left, he spent the last 695,148 RMB on gourmet food. With 10 days left, he spent 242,218 RMB on supplies. With 5 days remaining, he trained for archery with 545,974 RMB. With 3 days left before global freeze, he decided to return to work ahead of schedule. This way, even if the food in the warehouse disappeared, he wouldn't be immediately suspected. Then he put tranquilizers into cups of tea. While thinking, Zhang Yi added the drugs into more than 10 cups of tea. After finishing, he brought them to the table and called out, You all must be tired, right? Take a break and have a sip of this water. Hearing this, everyone put aside their work and went to the table to get drinks. Someone, while holding a cup of water, said, I'm really exhausted. The weather is cold. I'm about to freeze. Zhang Yi pretended to drink water, glancing at everyone while thinking, Let's see, the effect of the drug probably takes about half an hour. Just after half an hour, everyone fainted on the spot. Zhang Yi then approached one person to check. Sleeping like the dead, he thought. Now he called in Sin to go gather supplies. Zhang Yi wandered around the whole Anan warehouse and said, All the surveillance equipment has been turned off. Next, he opened the virtual space, stored all the goods inside, and said, Done. Let's store the remaining things in the virtual space as well. When needed, we can sort and use them. With this virtual space, we can store as much food as we want. Zhang Yi thought, with this kind of efficiency, moving all the goods from the whole Nan warehouse won't be a problem. While he was happily thinking that he was about to successfully complete this important task, suddenly, Zhang Yi noticed a stack of cardboard boxes in the corner of the room. He wondered what it was and then walked over. When he opened it, Zhang Yi immediately recognized that this was good stuff. Inside the box were cold-resistant clothing that could withstand extreme temperatures below 100 degrees. This was the latest technology product from 2050. Just imagining wearing this outfit made him happy, knowing he could resist any cold. Zhang Yi immediately stored. After clearing out the warehouse, Zhang Yi returned to the staff break room to rest and drink some water to relieve his exhaustion. While drinking water, Zhang Yi thought, Nobody knows and no one suspects that I have cleaned up the warehouse in such a short time. Normally, this is something I couldn't do alone. Therefore, Zhang Yi propped one of the staff members' arms onto himself to fabricate evidence, thinking that as long as no one suspected him for now, this secret would eventually disappear forever. After a while, Zhang Yi was shaken awake by another staff member. Manager, something big has happened. Wake up quickly. He pretended to just have been awakened, rubbed his eyes, and asked the staff member, What's going on? The staff member replied in a panic, We've encountered a ghost. Our warehouse has been completely cleaned out. Zhang Yi feigned a startled stand and asked, What? Then he went to the whole Nan warehouse to check. After seeing the empty warehouse, Zhang Yi held his head in frustration and asked, What the hell happened? With so many supplies in the warehouse, how could they just disappear? Immediately, the staff member handed him the phone, fearfully saying, The director is calling. Zhang Yi answered the call. The director said, Zhang Yi, someone reported that all the items in the warehouse have disappeared. What on earth is going on? Zhang Yi replied, We are also unclear about the specific situation. The break time and shift change only lasted 2 hours, yet the supplies in the Huanan warehouse have vanished without a trace. After hearing the explanation, the director was alarmed and couldn't help, but asked Zhang Yi again, "How could this happen, kid? You aren't a spy, are you?" Taking advantage of a loose guard to embezzle right. Meanwhile, the staff thought about handing this matter over to the police for handling. On the other side, Zhang Yi, sweating profusely, responded skillfully, "Director, don't joke. You know what kind of person I am. How could I possibly have the ability to make all the supplies in the warehouse vanish in the blink of an eye? Moreover," he added, "in my opinion, we cannot take responsibility for this. It's best to report it to the higher authorities quickly and actively cooperate with the investigation." After hearing Zhang Yi respond so reasonably, the director had no doubts and believed in his words. He said, "You're right. I will report this to the general manager so they can resolve the matter." Zhang Yi was very satisfied with the director's response. After hanging up, he immediately informed the staff, "The director has decided to report to the higher-ups to handle this. Someone will come to investigate shortly. Don't be afraid, just cooperate as much as possible." Upon hearing this clarification from Zhang Yi, the employees felt somewhat relieved and thanked him. Zhang Yi patted his subordinate on the shoulder, reassuring them. Falling asleep during a shift change is a common occurrence. Don't worry too much. Those who haven't done wrong have nothing to fear from a midnight knock. The group of employees agreed with him. Zhang Yi is right. Earning a few $1,000s a month, what's there to be reckless about? As long as we are honest, what is there to fear? A moment later, the investigation team arrived to look into the incident this time. Zhang Yi cooperated with the investigators, answering all their questions. In the end, the investigators simply thanked him and reminded him, "There might still be some doubts regarding the case, and we may need to contact you for further questioning at any time. If it's not an urgent matter, we hope you won't leave tea on high steady." Zhang Yi, hearing this, responded gently, "Of course, I won't go anywhere." After that, he left the investigation area and returned home. On the way, Zhang Yi saw the news report stating, according to leaked information, a major theft occurred at the Huanan warehouse in the city's port around noon on December 10. Supplies occupying an area of over 10,000 square meters disappeared within 2 hours. After hearing that breaking news, Zhang Yi took out his phone and saw that there were only 2 short days left. The snow had begun to fall, causing passersby to quickly return home to avoid the snow. They wondered, "This winter is really cold. Last year in our area, did the temperature ever drop like this?" Then they hurried each other to go home. Seeing the situation, he continued walking while saying, "In 2 days, this world will cease to exist." Just as Zhang Yi had predicted, 2 days later, a ball of light radiating bright rays struck the Earth. At 2 a.m. on December 12th, the aftermath of a supernova explosion swept across the globe, drastically lowering temperatures, leading to destructive calamities on this planet. At that time, Zhang Yi was simply sitting at home, drinking water and admiring the surrounding scenery, then slowly spoke. What is meant to happen will happen. Zhang Yi's spacious yet warm home seemed to protect him from the frigid snowstorm outside. He stood up to get some water, and then, sitting down on the sofa, he scrolled through his phone. The residential group chat was bustling with comments and messages about the recent weather, filled with a variety of emotions. Some people expressed their annoyance, revealing their feelings through messages like, "What kind of weather is this? It's below freezing already." Others worriedly texted, "Tomorrow the roads will surely be completely frozen. How will we go to work?" But there were also those who were pleased with the extreme weather and heavy snow, thinking they might have a day off work tomorrow. Ha ha! As Zhang Yi read those comments, he coldly assessed in his mind, this is just the beginning. He looked outside, watching Fang Wuting take photos in the snow with Shan Ning, and thought, the heavy snowfall will at least last for the next 3 months. The temperature will keep dropping. By then, you won't be in such a good mood to enjoy the snow. The next morning, the snow was so deep that it flooded the doorways of many households. The snowstorm had come unexpectedly, leaving many homes unprepared with no supplies stocked. While Zhang Yi was still asleep, his phone suddenly vibrated, waking him up. Zhang Yi silently complained, then sluggishly sat up and answered the call from Fang Wuting. As soon as she heard him pick up, she gently said, "It's really cold today. Did you stock up on supplies earlier because you knew the temperature was going to drop?" Zhang Yi replied casually, "I only heard it mentioned by friends, but I didn't expect the temperature to drop so dramatically." After hearing him admit this, Fang Wuting eagerly replied, "No wonder you've been stockpiling so many supplies." Not only that, she pretended to be weak and pouted, blaming Zhang Yi for not informing her in advance, causing her to almost freeze to death. As soon as he heard this, Zhang Yi coldly scoffed and hung up, leaving Fang Wuting alone to angrily bite her nails. She was still mad and wondered, has this person gone crazy lately, daring to hang up on me? Then she urged herself to think of a way to cope with the cold weather. After hanging up, Zhang Yi felt so annoyed that he could only hold his face and exclaim, "Now she still has the face to come and complain to me." He then stood up, stretched a few times, and went to take a shower. While having breakfast, Zhang Yi watched the news to stay updated. The report stated that last night, a cold front had swept across the entire planet, causing significant changes in global temperatures. The temperature dropped between 70 and 100 degrees Celsius. Moreover, the editor added information about the cause of this cold front. The meteorological department was conducting an investigation and reminded the public to avoid going outside unless absolutely necessary to keep warm and not to believe in any rumors about stockpiling supplies that would drive prices up sharply. Afterwards, Zhang Yi sighed, "This temperature drop is exactly like in my previous life." Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Fang Wuting. She pretended to scold him, asking why he had turned off her phone like that, and then she sweetly begged him for some food. As soon as Zhang Yi read the message, he thought, "This woman is not stupid. She knows that food in such extreme weather is very precious. She herself doesn't want to go outside in this freezing weather, so she has to reach out to beg me." Zhang Yi secretly believed that Fang Wuting's reasoning was indeed clever, but unfortunately for her, she shouldn't expect to get anything from me in this lifetime. To Zhang Yi, Fang Wuting was only good enough to play with and eventually suffer a tragic end. A moment later, Zhang Yi took a photo of his breakfast and sent it to Fang Wuting. She felt both surprised and envious when she saw the expensive steak and the bottle of French red wine worth $20,000. Fang Wuting thought to herself, "Clearly, we are in the same type of apartment, yet Zhang Yi can live so comfortably." Immediately, she expressed her admiration, hinting that she wanted steak and red wine just like him. However, Zhang Yi simply replied, "If you want to eat, fend for yourself and go to the supermarket to buy it." Fang Wuting was indeed furious to the extreme. She intended to argue back, wanting to insult him as someone not manly enough, missing such a good opportunity. However, Fang Wuting managed to restrain herself in time. She told herself, "I can't let a fish in the pond disturb my peace of mind." On the other side, Zhang Yi threw his phone aside, picked up a knife and fork to continue his breakfast when he noticed the tablet controlling the building's surveillance system. He picked it up to see the live feed from the front door camera. He thought to himself, "It looks like another dramatic scene is about to unfold here." In that place, there was a middle-aged woman trying to reassure the residents of the apartment building. That was Mrs. Lin. She advised everyone not to panic, stating that this severe weather would only last for 2 to 3 days, so they should not rush to buy supplies but wait for the neighborhood committee to come up with a way to help everyone get through this snowstorm. However, the residents of this apartment building were quick to refute her words. They said, "If that's the case, let people go out to buy some food. We're afraid that food prices will skyrocket in the next few days." Mrs. Lin tried to stop the crowd. She believed that rushing to buy supplies would only drive prices even higher. By then, everyone would have to buy goods at inflated prices. Moreover, Mrs. Lin warned, if anyone dares to hoard supplies and she finds out, they shouldn't blame her for reporting them to the authorities. Just then, Zhang Yi approached and calmly asked Mrs. Lin, "Do you know how long this snowstorm will last?" Then he spoke up, "What if this extreme weather lasts for a very long time, and by then, everyone runs out of food? Who will be responsible for that?" A bald man said, "That's right, you don't allow us to stockpile supplies, and when we run out of food and water, who will take responsibility?" Another person chimed in, "Exactly, are you providing us with food?" Mrs. Lin saw that things were not going well and hurriedly tried to reassure them. "Everyone stay calm, our neighborhood committee can take responsibility for this matter. I want to tell you all that there will be no shortage of supplies. The snowstorm will pass quickly." Outside, she said that, but in her heart, Mrs. Lin was constantly annoyed with Zhang Yi. "This damn kid daring to contradict me in front of so many people. Doesn't he care about my face?" Then she pointed at Zhang Yi. "Zhang Yi, don't stir up people's hearts at this time. Your behavior has violated the rules." Zhang Yi turned around and lightly waved his hand. "Mrs. Lin, I can't handle such a big hat. Don't worry, it's so cold outside that even if you call, I won't go out." "Go ahead." Mrs. Lin looked at his back and thought, "This kid really doesn't know the heights of heaven or depths of the earth. I need to figure out a way to lock him up somewhere dark for a few days." Days passed, and Zhang Yi was comfortably sitting on the sofa playing games. Snacking, he opened a bag of snacks, tossed a few pieces into his mouth, and continued playing. No need to think about work and the world situation, he relaxed comfortably, and this life was much more enjoyable than before the apocalypse. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a message. Who is it? Who would send a message at this time? He opened his phone to check and saw in the apartment group chat that Mrs. Lin had tagged him with a commanding message. "Zhang Yi, the roads outside are completely blocked by snow now. In a bit, you need to come down with some tools to help everyone clear the snow." Zhang Yi, while eating ice cream, thought to himself, "It's intentional to mention my name in the group to make me go outside. Revenge is quick indeed." He quickly came up with a response. "The first floor is now buried under this snowstorm. It will at least take 3 more months. Clearing the snow won't be faster than the snow falling. With the weather this cold, just stepping outside for a moment will get you frozen. Even if we do clear the snow, we have to wait for it to stop falling first." Mrs. Lin trembled, one hand checking the messages while the other was on the heater to warm herself from the cold. In the group, people were also messaging in support of Zhang Yi. "That's right, it's minus 70 degrees outside. Just stepping out for a moment, I'm sure we turn into ice too. This place isn't the Northeast. We basically don't have any cold-resistant equipment. How can we go outside?" Mrs. Lin read this and felt furious. Earlier, no one dared to say anything, but as soon as this brat opened his mouth, they all chimed in. She kept tapping on the screen to respond. "What kind of attitude is this? Clearing the snow isn't for you all? We are all young and strong. When faced with difficulties, you don't take the initiative to serve the community, but instead want to avoid responsibility. How can that be? Zhang Yi, I am using my authority as the neighborhood committee to order you to go outside and clear the snow. This is a critical time. We need to unite. Anyone who dares to oppose this is going against the leadership of the neighborhood committee. Once the snowstorm is over, you'll definitely be dealt with." Zhang Yi read this and felt admiration for Mrs. Lin's shamelessness. She relied on her power from the neighborhood committee all day, and while giving orders, it was clear that the others were waiting to support him against her. "Today, I will have a little fun with her." Saying that, he continued to message in the group. "If it's for everyone, the neighborhood committee should lead the way to shovel the snow. Moreover, with so many people in our building, why only call a few of us? Are we easy to bully? I didn't see you call that group of gangsters and rich kids. What's up with that? Afraid to confront them, huh?" Others also agreed. "Zhang Yi is right. He speaks for my feelings. That's right, always looking for the honest ones. Why not go find Chen Zhenghao and Chu Hao?" Ms. Lin was sweating profusely. In this area, who doesn't know that Chen Zhenghao on the 6th floor has several hundred people under him? That young master has connections with high-level leaders. Zhang Yi confidently replied, "If Ms. Lin has such bravery, then go call Chen Zhenghao and Chu Hao to come shovel." Zhang Yi thought to himself, the first person to hammer on his door in a previous life was Chen Zhenghao. Su Hao was the first to stab him. He sneered and slowly poured soda into a glass. "None of you are good for anything. If I hate you all so much, then let's do this properly." At this moment, Ms. Lin became angry, stood up, and kept cursing Zhang Yi under her breath. "You brat Zhang Yi. At a time like this, you name them, obviously trying to provoke me. If I don't do this, will take me seriously in the future." In another place, Chen Zhenghao was lazily lying on the sofa when his phone suddenly rang, forcing him to check it. "Dan, this weather's so cold that even ghosts would freeze to death. Who has the time to look for work?" In the group, Mrs. Lin reminded everyone, "This building is our home. The snow shoveling depends on all of us. I hope anyone who has free time can take their tools outside to shovel the snow." She didn't forget to tag Shen Zhenghao and Tu Hao. Upon hearing this, Chen Zhenghao immediately got irritated and sent a voice message to the group. "It's freezing outside, so shovel what? If your head is sick, go to the hospital. Stop pretending to give orders to others. If you bother me again, I'll cut you to pieces." Tu Hao was not going to back down either. He snickered and sent a voice message. Holding his beautiful girlfriend, he said, "What does it have to do with me? If you shovel the snow, I don't have to go to work. I can sleep at home wrapped in a blanket all day, can I?" After sending that message, Su Hao, still holding his girlfriend, added, "You ignorant trash, always causing trouble with the money of your master. Do you think you're the master at joke? The only reason you are where you are today is because of your parents' money and family. Can I be like you? If you want to shovel, then hurry up. You all need to quickly go out and earn money for food. I can only comfortably go out to spend money after the snow is shoveled." After saying that, he didn't forget to take a picture of himself with his girlfriend. Seeing the messages from Chen Zhenghao and Chu Hao, Mrs. Lin's face turned red with anger. It was all his fault. It was all the good that Zhang Yi did. If not, I wouldn't have caused trouble for them. At the same time, while Zhang Yi was leisurely frying chicken in the kitchen, he received a voice recording from Mrs. Lin scolding him. "Zhang Yi, you little brat, do you want to cause trouble with me? Not going outside to shovel snow anymore? Are you satisfied now? Are we all supposed to be trapped here?" Zhang Yi took the chicken out and placed it on a plate on the table, disdainfully replying, "Mrs. Lin, cut it out. People like you bully the weak and fear the strong. Are you looking for me just to feel your existence?" As soon as he finished speaking, his expression changed, and he immediately threatened Mrs. Lin. "I'm telling you, I'm not easy to bully anymore. If you keep talking nonsense like a rabid dog, watch your life. His oppressive words made Mrs. Lin shrink back, but she still muttered curses at him. "Dan, you lunatic. You just wait. I'm not counting like you. If something happens in the future, you'll be on your own." At that moment, at Zhang Yi's house, while he was comfortably eating fried chicken, Chen Zhenghao came knocking on the door demanding to fight him. "Zhang Yi, you little brat. Come out here. Wasn't it very brave just now? How dare you drag me out to talk? Let's see how I deal with you." Not hearing a response, Chen Zhenghao angrily threatened. "I'm going to break down the door and drag you out. Just wait for me." Seeing him pounding on the door continuously, Zhang Yi quietly approached the door and pulled out a crossbow. He opened the peephole, aimed at Chen Zhenghao, and said, "I give you 5 seconds to get out of here." Zhang Yi lifted his crossbow, closing one eye and aimed at Chen Zhenghao's foot. He smiled and thought to himself, "No need to kill him right away. It's too quick for him to die like that. It won't be interesting anymore." Chen Zhenghao had no idea that misfortune was about to befall him. He stood in front of Zhang Yi's door with a wooden stick, and when he saw that Zhang Yi didn't come out, he shouted loudly, "You turtle, hiding in the house and not coming out right? If I get in there, you're done for." At that moment, Zhang Yi shot an arrow very quickly, piercing through Chen Zhenghao's foot. Chen Zhenghao lost his balance, dropped the wooden stick, and fell down painfully, crying out, "Ah!" He trembled, clutching the foot that had been pierced. Zhang Yi looked out from inside and saw Chen Zhenghao shaking his foot back and forth, looking in great pain, which satisfied him. He thought, "The effect is perfect. It directly went through." He slung the crossbow over his shoulder and said, "With a low temperature below -70 degrees and a punctured wound on that foot, it's definitely going to be amputated." At this point, Chen Zhenghao was already leaving. Wherever he went, blood dripped, grimacing as he thought that if he didn't get timely treatment in such a critical situation with scarce supplies, infection was inevitable. Soon, he would die in pain and coldness. The expression on Chen Zhenghao's face turned noticeably worse. He then entered the elevator with the stick, leaned against the wall, sweating profusely, and said, "That kid is serious. He really wanted to kill me." The elevator doors opened. He stepped out and grabbed his phone. He said, "I have to quickly find someone to treat me. It's so cold that the wound is practically frozen. If this continues, I may have to lose this leg in less than half an hour." Chen Zhenghao called the hospital, but the result was, "Sorry, the number you are calling is temporarily unavailable. Please call again." He hung up and cursed. "Damn this weather. Even if there is a hospital still operating, the ambulance won't be able to reach here." He walked to the house, rummaging for something that could alleviate his wound. Looking serious, he said, "It's too late. I'll just have to handle this leg myself and figure things out later." Chen Zhenghao sat on the sofa, one hand holding his leg and the other holding scissors to remove the arrow. The wound seemed to have hardened by now. He sighed in relief and said, "Thankfully, it's frozen. I won't need to get a local anesthetic." He gritted his teeth and quickly pulled out an arrow, throwing his bloody arrowhead on the floor, wiping his forehead in relief and saying, "Zhang Yi, I will definitely kill you definitely." Chen Zhenghao picked up his mobile phone and entered the shared apartment group, mentioning Zhang Yi in a message that read, "Just wait. If I don't smash you to pieces, then the name Chen Zhenghao will be written backward from now on." Zhang Yi, unafraid, replied, "What are you that I should be scared of? Keep provoking me and I'll break your other leg too." Both Mrs. Lin and Fang Wu-Ting, after reading the messages between the two, were surprised and shared the same question. Zhang Yi actually dared to confront Chen Zhenghao. It seemed he even injured his leg. At this moment, Chen Zhenghao's subordinates had also seen the message and in anger called him to ask, "What's going on, bro?" Chen Zhenghao was furious and quickly ordered, "Gather all the guys here immediately. Anyone who can fight, come along." Then he said, "Today, we must kill that asshole." Although the weather outside was extremely harsh, Chen Zhenghao's followers quickly gathered at his house, armed with all sorts of weapons. One bald guy among them spoke up, "Let's get there right now. That kid touched you. He's really asking for it." Chen Zhenghao stood up, pointed at them, and shouted, "My leg is about to be shot by Zhang Yi's crossbow. That kid lives in room 2401. Be careful not to let him sneak attack us. If we kick the door down, make sure to smash that turtle back into its shell for me." Hearing this, the others quickly went to Zhang Yi's place, banging on the door and making ear-piercing noises. The bald young man held a large knife that looked quite dangerous and shouted, "Open the door. If you dare shoot at our Zhenghao, you're dead today. This time next year will be your death anniversary. Come out and face your end." He grimaced and continued, "The snowstorm has blocked the road. Bringing over a dozen of us here took a lot of effort. Calling for help now would be useless." After saying that, he took his knife and forcefully stabbed it into Zhang Yi's door. As a result, the blade broke off from the handle and spun around, heading toward his back. The blade almost hit the head of a blonde young man who looked terrified and was drenched in sweat. They spoke in confusion and a bit of worry. This door is actually made of solid metal and it's thick like this. How can we break it down now? Although they were somewhat scared, they didn't forget to make sarcastic remarks towards Zhang Yi. How many enemies did he have to offend to build such a thick turtle shell, thicker than a city wall? For inside, Zhang Yi could see them, using their strength to bang on the door. He sighed, looking somewhat annoyed, and said, "Ha, so annoying, we have to start over again." He looked at the people outside through his tablet and mocked. "Can't you people be stronger? Haven't you eaten?" The bald guy picked up another knife and raised it towards Zhang Yi, shouting, "Hiding in a turtle shell is nothing. If you have the guts, come out here." Upon hearing that, Zhang Yi walked over to the water basin, took a long hose, and started pumping water inside. He said, with such great anger, "Let me calm you down for free." Once he was done, Zhang Yi directed the hose towards the noisy people outside. One of them approached the hose, feeling a bit worried and surprised, but thinking this was a trick Zhang Yi used on Chen Zhenghao, he said, "You want to use this trick 2 more times? Dream on." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi shot a stream of cold water at him. The people around were both surprised and confused. Not giving them a chance to escape, he continued to spray water on the remaining people. They turned pale, made awkward shapes, and screamed, "It's so cold! I'm going to die! Ah, don't spray anymore." After Zhang Yi stopped, some of them were shaking and said, "I'm freezing to death. Help, help, help me." Some lay sprawled on the floor, unable to move or lie down properly because their pants had frozen solid, rendering them immobile. Others lay pale-faced, curling up and hugging their legs. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa, whistling happily while observing, and thought to himself, "I originally wanted to use a crossbow to play with them, but spraying water is still safer. The effect is not bad either." When those people finally dragged themselves back to Chen Zhenghao's room, the shirtless one was trembling. Chen Zhenghao asked them, "Where's that kid? He bring him back?" Seeing that they seemed silent, he threw them a blanket. He became angry and demanded, "Someone explain to me what the hell is going on." The person sitting in the middle was a shaven-headed guy, and he stuttered as he replied, "Zhang Yi is so shameless. The door is so thick, we could bang on it all day and only scrape off a bit of paint. Then he sprayed us with the hose, it's unbearable." Upon hearing this, Chen Zhenghao thought to himself, "When I kicked the door, his door was as thick as a turtle shell." He angrily cracked a few of his knuckles and spoke in a reassuring tone. "It's okay, even if it's a steel turtle. There must be some weakness. Besides, I don't believe he can stay inside forever." Then he instructed the others, "You guys just wait nearby. As soon as he comes out the door, kill him for me." The bald man replied, "Brother Zhenghao is right. As soon as it peeks out, we will pull it out and beat it to death." The young man with blonde hair sneezed from the cold. That's right. Below, some people were clearing snow to create a path, and one person spoke up. "Uncle Wang, we've been shoveling snow for half a day and still can't see the ground. Just a few of us won't be able to clear it all." Another person chimed in, "If we clear the snow from the entire building, what if it opens up to the outside, but we still can't see the road? In general, we can't just dig a path to the supermarket, right?" Uncle Wang sighed and replied, "We're out of options. It can't be helped. The snow is falling so fast that without snowplows, we can't manage. Everyone should head back. Don't get too cold." Zhang Yi stood on the balcony observing below. He wondered. Back to the house. He was chewing on something and then stepped inside, tossing it into the trash. He thought, "It seems we've realized that human strength fundamentally cannot withstand such natural disasters." He sat down on the sofa, turned on the TV, and listened to the news for today. The news reported, "At this moment, we turn our eyes to the government. Authorities are planning to direct us in launching a final offensive against this snowstorm. According to reports, the ineffective prevention of the snowstorm has led to 200 million people affected and over 1 million have died. We hope everyone remains calm and trusts in the power of the government." Hearing this, Zhang Yi turned off the TV. He yawned deeply and realized that the scale and duration of this snowstorm were essentially beyond calculation. According to normal theory, the outside world still seemed overly optimistic. Zhang Yi picked up his phone and saw a message from Mrs. Lin. She pretended to care and texted, "Has everyone seen the news yet? Our country has the strength to withstand this natural disaster. Don't be tense. All issues will be resolved. If anyone at home needs supplies, those who are able should try their best to help. After all, this disaster will pass quickly. There's no need to hoard." Just after reading Mrs. Lin's message, another inquiry came from Fang Wuting. "Zhang Yi, are you okay?" Zhang Yi raised his head and thought to himself, "Sending me a caring message, she must be confirming whether I'm still alive." Then he replied briefly, "I'm fine." Fang Wuting continued messaging, "Okay, that's good. My house has run out of food, and I remember you bought quite a bit. Could you share some with me? I'll treat you to a meal later. Zhang Yi smirked at her message, wondering, has she already revealed her true nature so soon? Did we buy a lot together at the supermarket with Lin Xiaoning last time? It's only been 2 days and she already wants to reach out to me. He lifted his phone and took a picture of the dish on the table, which was a large and delicious lobster. Then he sent it to Lin Xiaoning with the caption, "Want to treat me to a meal? Unfortunately, I've already eaten. Take a look." Lin Xiaoning was irritated by the message that Zhang Yi sent. She frowned and said, "I initially intended to keep this Zhang Yi as my backup, but now his position has dropped behind everyone else." Her friend sitting next to her, who had read the entire message, chimed in, "Exactly. Doesn't he see what he's capable of? A man like this deserves to be singled for life." Then she took out her phone and turned to another angle to message Zhang Yi. First, she criticized him, saying, "Why are you so stupid? Wu Ting is upset now, didn't even know how serious this problem is." Zhang Yi smiled slightly and thought to himself, "I don't need to care that much." He then replied, "One person lifts up high, another brings down low. This drama is really interesting." Next, she laughed and messaged Zhang Yi back, saying, "You're foolish. The snow can only last a few days. You starve for 2 meals, and by then, tricking Wu Ting into your hands isn't such a big deal, right? You can't even bear to give her this little thing. I see you're not sincere towards Wu Ting at all." Zhang Yi picked up a can of soda to drink, sneered, and said, "This combination is really skillful. The good show is yet to come." He then replied to the girl with just one word, "Ah." She became furious at Zhang Yi's message, shouting, "After talking for half a day, this is the attitude. What does he mean?" Fang Wu-Ting looked over in confusion, and the girl reminded her, "Wu-Ting, Zhang Yi is really stupid. I kindly went to borrow some food for you, and he was so indifferent." Upon hearing this, Wu-Ting showed clear signs of annoyance. She closed her eyes and said irritably, "Ha! Who is Zhang Yi? Do I know him? Don't mention him in front of me anymore." Wu-Ting's friend approached her and hinted, "This Zhang Yi is not clear-headed. Don't you have other simp lords? We can't go outside now. Tell them to help with something first." Wu-Ting let out a sigh and decided to make a phone call. She spoke softly to the person on the other end. "Hello, is this Zhao Ping? I really have something I need your help with." Not long after, a tall boy with neatly styled red hair arrived at Fang Wu-Ting's place, handing her something and saying, "Wu-Ting, I brought the items for you. Although they are discounted things from the warehouse, I've chosen the best and most valuable ones." Fang Wu-Ting looked at him, blushed, thanked Zhao Ping, and complimented him for being so kind. Zhao Ping replied, "It's fine for you. I can do anything." Once he left, Wu-Ting's friend brought in the food and slammed the door shut. At this moment, her face was completely different from before, filled with anger as she thought to herself, "Humph, a guy who looks like a bear dares to have intentions toward me." 3 days later, as night fell, Zhang Yi nibbled on a chicken leg while holding his phone, saying, "The time is almost here. The show is about to start." Suddenly, a power went out. People in the building began to panic and shout, "Shit, why did the power go out? Ah, what's happening?" Everyone wrapped themselves in blankets or jackets and stepped out of their homes. A girl asked, "Does your place have power?" A young mother holding a small child replied anxiously, "No, the water has been cut off too. There's no hot water to mix the baby's milk." Then she comforted her child. A man, cleaning his glasses, said, "It's so cold like this, the air conditioning can't be used at all. There's no way to use the heater either. How are we going to get through this?" Everyone was buzzing with discussions. At this moment, why aren't the higher-ups stepping in to manage the situation? If this continues, it might lead to a deadly freeze. How long is this snowstorm going to last? The air conditioner can't be used, and the room has already dropped to minus 30 degrees. We don't have much food left in the house. Is there really no way to get to the supermarket with this snow blocking everything? At this moment, Zhang Yi, uninterested, was picking his teeth and said, "In times like this, if the high-ranking leaders are still struggling themselves, how can they care for anyone else?" Then he went over to the 2 large yellow chests, fiddling with something, looked up at the ceiling and continued, "Thinking ahead is the way to go." The entire place was engulfed in darkness and snow, but the area where Zhang Yi was located had light. Mrs. Lin wrapped herself and her grandchild in a blanket, trembling and confused, said, "No, how can this be? It was fine a few days ago. Why suddenly?" Then she received a message from the neighborhood committee's group chat. The content of the message was, "I've heard that this global snowstorm is very likely a natural disaster that occurs once in several thousand years. We might be facing a great genocide of creatures, which is the apocalypse. Our area has over 1 billion people. It is basically impossible to take care of everyone. Several key cities in the country have already collapsed. From now on, if we want to survive, We can only rely on ourselves and must stock up on supplies, especially food and energy, to keep warm. Mrs. Lin read the message and said, "That's right, we need supplies. While those people are still unaware of this news, we must find them to get what we need." Her grandchild looked up and asked, "Grandma, what's going on outside? When will my parents come back?" She turned to reassure the boy, saying, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine. After a little more time, your parents will return." She thought to herself, "I must do my best to protect myself and my grandchild. We must survive." Then she sent a message to everyone in the building. "Everyone, the emergency is only temporary. The weather outside is extremely cold and the water and electricity issues are being repaired by the staff. The higher-ups have issued a notice. During normal times, our neighborhood committee will carry out unified management of the building owners. If you do not cooperate and serious consequences arise, we will ask the police to take action after this incident." One person read the message and asked in surprise, "Has it gotten this serious? What exactly is happening outside?" Xu Hao, lying on his bed, saw the message, tossed his phone aside, closed his eyes, and said, "All I know how to do is put on a show. It's really exhausting." In Chen Zhenghao's room, his subordinates each sat on the floor, shivering under a blanket. Chen Zhenghao, sitting on a chair, had also read the message and angrily said, "This old woman is really annoying, issuing orders without solving any problems." His subordinates, cheeks red like cooked shrimp, said to him, "Brother Zhenghao, we can't go outside right now, and we don't have any fever-reducing medicine. We have to hold on until then." Zhenghao angrily snapped back, "It's still your fault for being useless. You didn't take out that kid Zhang Yi, and now it's ended up like this." Zhang Yi was playing video games when he received a message from Ms. Lin. Zhang Yi found it strange and picked up the phone to take a look. Ms. Lin wrote, "The snowstorm has a significant impact on everyone's lives. According to the announcement from the higher authorities, this snowstorm will last for a little while longer. To help everyone get through this difficult time together, starting now, the neighborhood committee will collect some supplies from each household and then proceed with a unified distribution." After reading this, Zhang Yi smirked and said, "Here we go again." Just as he exited the chat, messages from Ms. Lin kept coming in. Zhang Yi opened his mouth and wondered, "If no one has fallen into the trap for now, it's only a matter of time before they come for me." Ms. Lin hurriedly messaged, "Zhang Yi, you usually work near the warehouse. You must have some food and drinks at home, right? I remember you bought 3 big carts of supplies last time." Zhang Yi's expression darkened, and he irritably said, "In my past life, she tricked everyone into giving supplies. I generously donated a little, and in the end, it just brought a wolf to my door." Ms. Lin continued to message, "Everyone is facing difficulties now. It's time for you to step up. Don't worry, after this snowstorm passes, we will definitely return the favor. Everyone will remember your kindness." Seeing her overly enthusiastic messages, Zhang Yi sneered and recorded a voice message saying, "That's great, Ms. Lin. If you manage to gather supplies, make sure to share some with me." Zhang Yi thought to himself, "The reason I met a tragic end in my past life is closely linked to her." Aunt Lin angrily said, "Ha! Who is this kid trying to fool? Normally, when working in the warehouse, you all have already taken a lot of discounted items, so there must be a lot of supplies stored at home." She turned to look at her grandson, rubbed the boy's head, and reassured herself, "I need to stay calm. I can't give up. As long as I can catch this Zhang Yi fish, then my grandson and I will definitely get a lot of supplies. At least we can hold on for another week." Then she picked up the phone and spoke to Zhang Yi in a flattering tone. "Zhang Yi, everyone knows you are the manager at the supermarket's warehouse. How could you possibly be lacking food and drink? This time it's an order from the organization. You are obligated to comply. You contribute to everyone, and everyone in the organization will remember your kindness. Listen to me, transfer all the food in your house to me. Share it with everyone." Zhang Yi, picking his teeth, replied, "Aunt Lin, I really am not lying to you. I've eaten all the food at home. Earlier this year, the boss's house didn't have any surplus food either. How about you give me a few packets of instant noodles first to kickstart things for everyone?" Ms. Lin seemed to have lost her patience, growing angry and shouting, "Zhang Yi, it's no longer possible to talk to you properly, right? I am representing the organization now. If you refuse to hand over the supplies, you are directly opposing the organization. Once this is over, I will definitely deal with you." Zhang Yi, upon hearing this aside, sneered and replied to the old lady, "Representing the organization? You're just a staff member of the neighborhood committee. Don't even talk about being a civil servant. You might have even got permanent status yet." He teased Ms. Lin. "You usually like to bully others, and now you actually have delusions of grandeur. If you have the ability, show it. I'll be waiting for you at home." Ms. Lin, infuriated by Zhang Yi, said nothing more but ended the call, then threw the phone and shouted loudly, "What a detestable little brat. Can't I find a way to teach you a lesson? After all, I am the leader of a building." A thought flashed in her mind, and she placed her hands on her head, dripping with sweat, questioning herself. Should I pressure in with the residents of the building? Then she thought differently. No, if everyone follows his example and refuses to hand over the supplies, it would be very troublesome. In urgent situations, it's every man for himself.